Today's guest is Joanne Butcher, who is a consulting producer with over 180 films and series in various stages of development. With a wealth of experience in fundraising and distribution, Joanne has a proven track record of facilitating the sale of numerous feature films and participating in the distribution of 21 features. So, Joanne, thank you very much for being on. How are you doing today?
I am doing very well, thank you. Great to be here.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I haven't actually had anybody who's had a background like yours. Like I obviously work with entrepreneurs. There's been a lot of different business owners that have been across here, but I've never had anybody like in film. So, but I know you didn't really want a prize today, but that's the prize that you won
Oh, thank you.
as
I
far
get
as
the
this
gold
one.
star. But
Yeah.
it what I learned many years ago was that artists tend to be trained to do their art, but not to actually have a career in their art. And then I specialize with filmmakers, but it's really a tricky thing for all artists that they get trained in the craft, but not in how to actually make a living. So I'm really focused on helping filmmakers make a living at making films and raising money to make their films. And
Beautiful.
yeah, it's very much a specialization.
Yeah, but a much needed one because like the art can't be made if the financing isn't there to bring it to light, right? So it makes
Definitely. And
sense.
particularly with film, you can write a poem for pretty little money, but a film, you're going to need
Yeah.
money.
Yeah, hard to make a set with just your words, right? Yeah, I get it.
Right.
Perfect. So yeah, I mean, let's dive right into it because your business is to like support other people with their vision. Mine is support you with yours. So I want to just dive into that piece of it. So I know off air we talked about sales, right? You specifically were saying of I'm really good at what I do, but like the sales piece, even though I've gotten all this training on sales and I know all of the things and I've invested a lot in learning that skill, it's always a sore spot. So tell me a little bit more about, okay, so what is it about sales that is a sore spot for you?
Well, whatever I'm doing with my marketing, I tend to get calls with really good people, and I can clearly see that they need to become my client, and then they say no. They say no. They say I don't have the money, even though maybe unlike a lot of coaches, I'm actually helping them bring money in. So working with me, they're going to end up with more money in their pocket than they spent on working with me. But so I just find it very frustrating that there are all these filmmakers, and I can see the vision that they want to achieve, but they're not willing to uh, do the work or make the investment or learn the skills that are not really interesting to them. I mean, they're not interested in fundraising. They're interested in many other things other than fundraising. But I know that how successful they can be if they will just invest in fundraising.
Got it. So that's kind of the situation that you are in, right? Like I understand the
Yes,
frustration of that situation because you can see you can help them, but then there's this kind of invisible resistance to getting
right,
to that point. So
right.
if we, because at the end, they like you don't control their perception of you, you don't control what it is that they do or they don't do. We have some influence on the situation, but the place you have 100% control over is like, okay, what do you bring to the table? Right. I always talk
Mm,
about maximizing your 50% of the interaction, right? So
right.
when it comes to sales, tell me about your experience selling.
My experience selling. So I feel as though it's the hardest thing that I do. It's the I have to work harder than anything else that I do, and partly what I'm working on is really connecting with that vision of the filmmaker, and then I am taking them through a process of seeing where they're stuck and what the obstacles are to them being successful as filmmakers. And then I offer them my services, which is, I see the way forward as being as about focusing on the money and getting the money you need to make your film. And so they'll often be super excited, and then right at the end they're like, oh yes, this sounds great. No, I don't have any money. By the way, I haven't been employed for 6 months. It's something like
Got it. Okay.
that.
So, and this is going to be like it's probably going to be an ongoing thing, but when I'm asking these questions, I'm usually going to be looking for, okay, well, where does your brain like kind of go off tangent
Right.
from the actual question,
Right.
right? So the question was, okay, well, what's your 50% of it, right? And one of the things
Uh-huh.
you said, okay, well, sales is the hardest thing that I do, right? Like it's generally that there's a perception of like this is really, really hard. Okay, so
Mm,
that part, we can work on. What else is your
right.
perception of sales? So when you are in front of the prospect, what are you feeling internally when you are talking to them?
I think a lot of times I'm like super excited. I chose my work because my favorite people in the world are filmmakers, right? So I love meeting a new filmmaker and I love to hear about their work and what they're working on. I love variety and diversity, so I'm very excited about that. And then, the way you've asked the question, it may be that maybe I get a little frozen thinking, this is all so good. Maybe I go a little first and decide that it's not going to work or something like that. I hadn't really identified that before, but maybe I think it's not going to work before I find out it's not going to work.
Okay, so that's really interesting. So tell me more about
Mm.
that. What do you mean when you say I get frozen, I decide it's not going to work?
Um, because I really am excited at the beginning, so I'm not sure where that excitement goes
Okay,
away,
so let's get
you
more
know?
specific. What are you excited about? The fact that there is somebody in front of you who could be a potential client, you're
Yeah,
excited
yeah.
about that in the fact that like their project is cool. Like what are you
Right.
specifically excited about?
I just really get very cool people who come to me, very
Okay.
cool people. And then when I offer my services, they seem to see how valuable it is. But what I was just saying, which I don't think I've identified before, is that maybe I give up before it's time to give up or something like that.
Okay. So
Um,
why is that new
yeah,
for you right now?
to perceive it. I don't know. I just sort of was thinking about the energy that I bring, and I just think I'm just feeling as though I don't stay excited all the way through the call, as excited as I am at the beginning. I don't think I stay as excited all the way through the call.
Okay. And
Maybe.
how is that affecting you throughout the call and at the end of the call?
Well, one big shift that I've made this year is that I enjoy the calls more than I used to. I would get very frustrated in the past, and now I've been focusing on enjoying more and having more of an open conversation, without feeling as if I'm trying to lead somebody somewhere. And so, because I feel as though I really could use with having my sales calls be more fun for me.
Okay.
Um,
And has that improved your conversions or
no, it has
okay.
not, but
So
it
you're
has
having more
improved.
fun,
Yes,
but you're not really making fun sales.
no,
Okay.
and I thought it might make a difference, but it's taken some of the stress off the
Okay.
calls.
So that's an important point. So it's taken the stress off the conversation out by making it more fun. And the result of that is actually make less sales. So is it true that it's taken the stress out of the conversation or it's taken the internal pressure you might have had before? Like what you're experiencing as the stress is out is actually just relief from the fact that there's less pressure to make a sale. And then you're actually just making a conversation and not actually making sales.
Mm, I wouldn't say I'm making less sales, although that could be true that I'm making less sales, but uh, I because I do have to be so protective of my health, I felt as though if I could shift the energy in the sales conversations to feel more fun and more positive, then I'd be a happier, healthier person.
I mean, that
And
is true. I guess what I'm
yeah.
because I asked you like, wait, well, have your conversion rates decreased as a result of this? And you said yes, they have. So
Oh
that's my assumption in
no, you said have they improved? And I said no. So I
okay,
don't
so
think they've decreased, but they have not improved.
got it. I got it. Okay,
Yes,
perfect.
yes.
So you made a change and there's not really any difference there. Okay.
Payoff. Right.
And what's your like conversion rate at this point?
Oh, it's maybe 10%.
Okay, got it. So realistically speaking, it's kind of like below what would be considered some
Yeah,
sort of like
yeah,
25%
right,
average with like
right,
cold, etc. Okay,
right.
perfect.
25% would change my life.
Okay, so that's significant to know,
Yeah,
right? So if I
yeah,
close 1 out of 10 right now, if I were to close two, that would change my life.
right.
Okay, what's coming up for you as I reflect that back?
Well, I think back to this sort of I've invested so much into improving my sales and it's just not paying off. And it's just a challenge that's so frustrating and beyond me, you know? And I've had really good sales training and I'm just not quite sure why it's not it has not paid off the way that I would have hoped.
Got it. So if we go back to your experience of the sales process, right? So
Mm,
there's this sense where you get frozen and you're saying, I don't think it's going to work, so I give up beforehand. Okay.
mm, mm,
What I'm hearing from the outside looking in is there is a moment where you drop the certainty of what I'm assuming is the result. So you're shaking your head,
mm.
yes. So tell me more
Yes,
about why that resonates.
yes. Well, last week I had a call with a guy who was an absolute definite no, I don't have the money, there's no way. And so I ended up having this conversation with him, and somehow or other, I was so much more free with being honest and real with him. And I didn't close the sale. He says, you know, he's trying to look for the money, but I saw how I converted him from no, there's no way, I don't have any money, to, oh my God, I really need this, I got to get some money. And that's where I want people to be, right? But I was a very different person with him. And I think it was because the conversation started out that this is not going to be ending in a client.
Okay. So when the pressure to not make a client is relieved,
Yeah,
you actually lead with more certainty.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So what does that tell you about what your sales calls are missing?
Certainty.
Okay. And does that resonate with you?
Yes, and I feel as though I bring a lot of certainty to the call, but
Well, is that really true if there's a
yeah,
part of you internally that
yeah,
midway through freezes and says, I'm giving up
yeah,
before? So
right.
maybe intellectually, you bring
Yes,
certainty because you know what
intellectually.
you can
Yeah,
do when somebody becomes a client.
right.
But there's a part of you that doesn't believe in that moment, doesn't deliver the certainty in that moment. So does that resonate with you?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I
Okay.
think that's
So in that regard, do you have a sales problem or do you have a confidence and certainty problem?
yes, that's really interesting because I would have never have thought that I had a confidence problem, but I there's something there in the sales piece that's
Okay.
the problem, the confidence problem.
So that's also very interesting because it doesn't sound to me like you have a confidence in the fulfillment.
Right. No, I don't. Not at
Okay.
all.
So there's a confidence that's never been like really firmly situated within you to get the sale,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
when your business, like you said at the beginning, what you're basically selling is a certain, like you need somebody like me to get the financing. So like I know you're
Mm-hmm.
paying now, but it's like you pay me X amount so you can get 10X the amount for your movie.
Right. Right.
Right. So that's a full on certainty play.
Yes.
And there's a part of you that is scared of that certainty.
I don't think I'm scared of that certainty. I think I'm scared of the potential client's certainty.
Okay.
I'm not
So
scared about my certainty.
tell me more about that. What do you mean?
I think what we're identifying in this conversation is that um, I'm somehow giving up on the client. I have no doubt about my, as you called it, 10xing their investment, but somehow I doubt them.
So you doubt their ability to like do something with the knowledge that you have.
No, 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 no. Doubt their willingness to pay, willingness to invest in
Ah,
themselves,
so you
willingness
are
to.
concluding on their behalf that
Yes,
you
I
can't
think so.
pay.
I think so.
Okay,
Mhm.
got it. So basically you're prejudging that this person can't afford me.
Yeah, and I hadn't seen that before this conversation, but like last week, I had a conversation with a guy. It was from a referral. Loved my work, loved everything, and at the end of the conversation, he said, "Well, I need to go and check my bank account because I have 3 mortgages, and I just need to make sure." And he's gone, ghosted me, and it's just, I'm like, this is not a guy who doesn't have a few $1,000s. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I got to check my bank account because I have 3 mortgages. I'm trying, yeah. So, um, I, I, I don't find that it's about somebody's money, whether they have money, whether they don't have money. It's something else that's uh, not not connecting, and I'm thinking it could be me.
Okay.
I prefer it was me than it was them, because if it's me, then I can do something about it.
Well, and that's why I started this call telling you like the part that I'm interested in is the 50%. Like I want you to
Yes.
maximize your 50%,
Uh-huh.
you know. And right now, the part of your 50% that's not maximized is number one, you're already pre-concluding that the person
Yeah.
can't afford it. So, knock off 10% there for just example, right? So I'm already concluding that this person can't afford it. I already start to show that by basically speaking with less certainty that this is going to actually work out. How do you think they perceive their confidence, their certainty that you can deliver on the things that you say when your 50% is showing up as like, I don't know.
Yeah, well, considering they come to the call with no confidence in themselves because they don't know the first thing about raising money. And then if I give them a flavor of being uncertain about their ability to achieve what they need to achieve, then why bother?
Correct. So going back again, do you really have a sales issue or do you have a certainty confidence issue?
It's a certainty confidence issue.
Okay. So why? And I'm only challenging you on the why because I know it's kind of like I was leading the question of like, okay, that's the answer I wanted to hear. So to combat that, why does that actually land for you? Like, why do you feel like you have a certainty and confidence issue, not a sales issue?
I'm not sure why, but I'm feeling like fear in my stomach.
Okay, great
and
awareness.
and I yeah, and I spend a lot of time being afraid about sales.
Okay, perfect.
A
So
lot of time.
that's now another layer, right? Outwardly, it's
Yeah.
the lack of certainty. Internally, it's well, I'm prejudging to kind of ensure that that certainty isn't there. And then behind it all is a fear. So tell me more about that fear. What are you actually afraid of?
I know I answered one of your questions, catastrophizing.
Mm-hmm.
So I have certain markers in my business. I have a small business. It's a 6-figure business. It's been shrinking the last 2 years. I've been on payroll for 3 years. I've always been able to make payroll. I have an assistant for 3 years. I've always been able to pay my assistant, but I'm constantly terrified it's all going to just fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't be able to pay my bills and I won't be able to survive and all that. But I spend a lot of time in that kind of fear.
Okay. So great awareness on like the general narrative that's floating within me. Okay. And how does that manifest in the moment of the sales call?
Well, I think I am probably showing up to the call afraid. I'm already afraid before the call starts. And then
Okay.
probably I'm performing confidence.
So I'm basically trying to fake my way to the
Yeah.
thing.
Not and again, it's not about my work. It's not about
Correct.
my work. It's not about the fulfillment. It's my fear about the
Yeah.
sales process.
100%. And I don't have any doubt that like your work is fabulous. I think anybody who's had the decades of experience that you've had with the track record that you have, like you know what you're doing. So that's not at all. When I'm asking these questions, it's actually nothing beyond like once the transaction has been made. I'm not asking you about that piece. I'm actually
Right.
asking you about
Right.
the piece prior. So I get that. So this fear about the sale. So if we now flip it around to the other 50%,
Okay.
if you're coming in saying all of the right words, I have this track record, I can do all this stuff for you, I got this. And the underlying emotion that I'm trying to basically act my way out of is one of fear, where I don't have certainty and I don't really believe that this is going to work. I, as the receiver of that, who's like, okay, so I got to trust this person to like get me money and deliver on this. And I'm already strapped because I'm trying to make this like big creative project. Do you think that's going to push or pull me away from making the
Push you
decision?
away.
Right.
Definitely.
Right. So again, going back to kind of the original question, it was like, do you have a sales problem? Do you have a confidence certainty problem? In this instance, energetically, do you think you have I need a better sales script and better, leads and whatever, or do I have essentially, how do I show up problem?
Yeah, I think it's a how do I show up? Because it's just exhausting being that scared.
Correct. And I can understand why there's a part of you that's like, okay, you know what? Let's just make this a fun conversation because I'm so tired of living in fear in that moment. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So that's
Mm-hmm.
what I was getting at, where I was like, okay, to what degree is this about relief and to what degree is this about improving your sales? And you're like, well, still have the same 10% conversion rate. So that decision is to actually relieve the fear and the anxiety, much less to actually improve the certainty and the confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
lands for you there?
Well, making the conversations more fun meant that I didn't end up in a kind of struggle. I don't end up in this kind of struggle anymore. Occasionally it happens, but basically I'm not in a struggle. So I end the conversation feeling like, oh, I can still go about my day and do whatever, and not be like, which is where I was before. Um, but I think what we're talking about is that is not addressing the underlying fear, the level of fear that I live with. And just so you know, so I spent 7 years in bed, too sick to work, and I lost everything. My health is still not 100%. And so, I have fear based on I already lost everything. I already went through that.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, I think that my fear about money and stuff is really outsized, and I've done a lot of work on it. It's no coincidence that my field is money.
Yeah. 100%. We always do the thing we need to heal ourselves, like that happens quite often. So that's
Right,
not a problem at
right.
all. So just to kind of, I guess, summarize the observations so far, right? Like if you had to look at the conversation so far, like what are the actual three real problems that you're experiencing right now?
I'm afraid in general. I'm afraid about money, and I'm afraid about sales. Those are
Okay,
the three problems. There's this fear, then there's a more specific fear, and then there's a more specific fear.
perfect. So afraid in general, I'm afraid of money. And are you afraid of losing it or are you afraid of receiving it?
I would say of not being able to receive it. I'm afraid of not being able to receive it.
So tell me more about that. What do you mean not?
Scarcity. I'm afraid of scarcity. I'm afraid of scarcity. I'm always in scarcity about money.
Okay. Which is kind of the situational, this is generally how I feel, there's never enough, which is
Right.
fine. I understand that. And you said, I'm afraid I'm not able to receive it, meaning there's not going to be enough that's going to come my way, or like I just feel weird when I receive it.
No, I don't feel weird when I receive it. It's just that there's not going to be enough.
There's not going to be
There's
enough.
not
Okay.
going to be
So
enough.
being in scarcity,
Yeah.
etc. Okay.
Yeah.
So this is also really important because what you're just describing is, okay, so I have this general fear that I constantly live with. And then it's like manifests in there's not going to be enough money. And then I'm afraid of sales. So the very thing that's going to get me out of these fears, I'm also afraid of. So is it
Yes.
really true that you have, like, I know that there's like influencing, but like we really want to get specific here, because the more specific you can be with the problem, the more specific you can be with the solution. Like, I'm just afraid in general. Okay, there's definitely ways to work around that, but we're talking about how can like you improve your life the most. If we zoom in on like what's the biggest domino that if we knock this one out, it's going to
Mm.
knock over a lot of different things. To me, this sounds like if I can knock over the sales domino,
Yeah.
like you said, if I improve my sales conversion by 10%, my life changes. I.e., if out of 10 people I close one more than I do now, my life changes. Okay, so that would be sales. But I'm afraid to do the very thing that's going to change my life. Okay, so what's your reflection of that?
Um, so I'm not afraid of sales. I'm always having sales conversations. I have sales conversations this week. But I think from this conversation, what I need to shift uh, is it's almost like what spiritual bypass is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I'm not addressing the fear. And if I need to be open to the fact that I'm afraid and do whatever I need to do to address that before the call starts, instead
Mm-hmm.
of pretending I'm not afraid. Pretending I'm not afraid is not a solution.
Okay, so pretending I'm not afraid, okay, is basically like, okay, I need to, like, I'm more aware that I'm pretending that I'm aware, right? Like that
Yes.
I'm actually like afraid,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So congratulations, like that's a big step in the right direction. Okay, and you're in a very good position because like if you're constantly having a calendar full of potential sales calls, that's a good problem to like not have to worry about. It's just like, okay, so all I have to do then is actually get better at sales. And it's not even that I have to get better at the skill set of sales, it's how I show up in sales. So if we now zoom into that part, there is a fear. I understand that that's influencing how I show up. And what are the main problems that that's causing within your sales? And I know I'm being extra like anal here to like dive
Right.
in, but
Right.
like it's very important to get clear on what this is all about.
Can you say it again? Because I feel as though I missed it, the
Sure.
question.
So if we're kind of like diving and zooming deeper into it, right? We start, I'm generally afraid. I'm afraid I'm not going to have enough money. I'm afraid of sales. And then now I'm actually starting to just be honest with the fact that I can't gloss over the fact that there's a fear there. Okay. You're basically now more in tune with reality. I'm actually afraid of something in sales. And in and of itself, that's not actually a problem. That has ripple effects and consequences that manifest as problems within sales. Okay. I have some ideas on what those could be, but I'm curious to know what is your interpretation of what are the consequences of being this fearful about sales?
Well, it means that I'm kind of going into every sales call in this contracted position
Mm-hmm.
instead of an expansive position. And part of what I do with my clients is I help them expand. That's one of the things I'm really, really good at. Um, so if I'm going into the initial call with this contraction, then I'm not really able to help them see the vision that is possible for them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So I'm going into every sales call already fearing it. Okay. So the way that I've interpreted this, and I'll get it to you for your reflections, is basically what we talked about before. So I fear the sales call because I'm judging it's not going to work.
Right.
I don't show up with confidence and certainty. And I basically contract. And what I'm assuming is like you don't sell with the enthusiasm and certainty that your fulfillment is actually reflective of. So I basically I undersell, I don't show up with confidence, and I'm already concluded that it's not going to work ahead of time. So does that, like, do those resonate with you?
Yeah. Yeah. Those were good.
Okay.
And
So
especially since I wasn't aware of them properly before, I think it's very helpful.
perfect. Perfect. So put them in your words just so that it lands. How would you say them in your own words?
I would say that I'm a very genuine and a very authentic person, and I've just identified an inauthentic piece of myself, which is that I'm showing up to a sales call already afraid, already contracted, already thinking this is not going to work out, and then I'm not really serving the potential client with my full self, and I'm not helping them in the experience of really seeing a vision of what they want to achieve, because I'm coming from this contracted place.
Right. So you're in scarcity before you even start the actual call.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So since this is all new, like I haven't really put these pieces together and I'm more aware of them, how have you been trying to solve this before this realization?
Well, gosh, I've studied sales now for probably 7 years, and studied all kinds of things. Uh, you know, invested a lot of money, um,
Into what?
and I
Into
into
what specifically?
studying sales, into
Into
studying
studying sales.
sales.
Okay. And when you say
Yeah, yeah.
studying sales, you meaning sales scripts, meaning sales strategy, meaning role playing? Like what do you mean when you
Sales
say?
strategy, working with coaches who specialize in sales. Uh, for 2 years, I worked with somebody who's really successful in sales. And then more recently, I've been studying with somebody who's a bit more about the, he's the one who helped me, let go of the huge anxiety. And so, yeah, that's what I've done. And then within those, in those 3 years of study, done work on scripts and role playing and all kinds of things around sales.
Perfect. So that has addressed the skill aspect of sales. How much of it has addressed the things you just identified? The prejudgment of it's not going to work. I don't show up with confidence. I'm already afraid because I'm not serving with my full self. Like how many of the things you've done actually address the identity piece
Mm,
of your
mm.
sales?
I don't think it's ever been something that we've talked about. I mean, we have, you know, I have, but I don't think I've ever identified what I would call inauthenticity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So
my own
basically,
inauthenticity.
your authentic self is not showing up to sales calls.
Right, right.
Okay.
Which I think is really interesting because because I want people to experience the very authentic person that I am when they have that call with me. And I hadn't recognized that I wasn't giving that to them.
Yeah. And can your full confident self actually show up if all this fear is in the way?
No, that's not a possibility.
Yeah. So going back to the original question, do you have a sales problem or do you have a fear problem?
I have a fear problem.
Perfect. So just to kind of move this towards, some level of like closure as far as the awareness piece, who would you be without this fear?
Gosh, I feel as though I would be, I'd kind of be unstoppable.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's make that even more tangible. What does that mean for you kind of more day to day, month to month, year to year?
Well, the illnesses that I struggle with are very much based on stress. And I'm like, but
Mhm.
I'm not stressed. But of course I'm stressed. If I'm constantly afraid, I must be stressed. That's stressful to be constantly afraid. Um, and I think I've just on some level learned to kind of ignore it or something,
Right.
which doesn't
So,
sound very healthy.
well, there's a level of like, because you were like, okay, well, I wasn't really aware of this. Like I was pretending that I'm not afraid. Kind of has a ripple effect. I'm pretending I'm not stressed, yet all of my
Mm,
illnesses are stress
yes,
induced, or at least have a big
yes,
stress factor to them.
right.
Right. So the pattern here for you is I'm not really facing the root issue. I've spent 7 years studying sales scripts, skills, and strategies, and that's kept me busy to not have to look at, well, why am I actually afraid to show up
Mm,
authentically in sales?
mm,
And yet, that is now the root cause of why you can't put all of those years of study into ROI.
mhm, mhm.
So, what lands for you there?
It feels as though it's a much shorter, a shorter distance to get to the fear and the root cause of the fear, and realizing that, yeah, I'm going into sales conversations trying to pretend to be confident.
Yeah. And if you had that confidence authentically, what would that mean to you?
Um, well, the conversations would be a lot more fun. and and I think that, oh, I just thought of something. I I think that, well, firstly, I would be able to be more honest with people, um, and but I would also be able to be either more vulnerable or let them be more vulnerable with me because I'm not pretending.
Mm-hmm. So it actually would allow them to be more authentic as well.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
perfect. And if you were confident, the one thing I still haven't heard from you is I could
Uh-huh, uh-huh,
actually improve
right.
my sales.
Oh, um, I think that I've kind of lost the hope that I can improve my sales.
All right.
I
So,
think I don't have it.
and that's kind of why I kept asking you these questions,
Right,
because we started this whole thing is okay, well, my conversion is probably 10% right now. And if
right.
I got it to 20, it would change my life. So if I got to a baseline kind of industry standard of that 20%, it would change my
Mm-hmm.
life. And I
Yeah,
kept circling and circling and circling. And not once have I heard you
right,
be like,
right.
oh,
Oh,
I just
that
need to
would be
close one more
great.
person and I would have, okay. So that is extremely, extremely important
Oh,
because a ripple part of the fear also doesn't believe that you can actually
right,
be successful.
better. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that is actually like a fourth thing now, right?
Yes.
Prejudge is not going to work. I don't show up with confidence. I'm showing up inauthentically, and I've lost hope that I can actually improve my sales.
Yeah, I think that's happened. Yeah.
Okay. So I know there's a lot of stuff here, and again, I can't go into like helping eliminate this all like on air. But as far as like eliminating, or sorry, as far as like mapping out what the root cause is for you, does this feel complete, or is there still something left outstanding?
It feels really complete, and I feel as though that fear that was in my stomach has kind of it feels kind of softened now, and it feels as though it's not as intense as it was. I wouldn't say it's got as far as hope, but
Yeah,
it's definitely improved from where it was.
good. It's kind of just okay. I'm a little bit more aware of what this is, right? But yeah, we don't even want to have, like, if you just see like this, I went from fear, kind of maybe I'm flirting with hope now, but like where we want to get you to is like, people are crazy if they don't work with me because look at what I can do, right? So that's
Right.
the kind of the night and day shift you want to be
Yeah.
moving towards.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just, for the sake of time, that's the only reason why I want to move this towards a close, because I'm going to be respectful of your time as well. But does all that like make sense as far as like mapping out
Yeah.
what is actually in front of you right now?
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I also didn't if I don't go into a sales call with hope, then I can't see how it could possibly work.
Correct. And the
Right.
other person can't either, especially
Right.
given like the nature of your business. So
Right.
yeah, 100%.
Right. Yeah.
Perfect. Well,
Yeah.
Joanne, thank you for allowing yourself to be witnessed in this way, because I know it's not, the funnest of things to be in this space. And yeah, if you want to just close us off by letting everybody know, who's the best person to find you, where can they find you? Floor is yours for that.
Thank you. This was really great. And my name is Joanne Butcher. I have a website, which is www.filmmakersuccess.com. And I have another website, which is just plain joannebutcher.com. And I just do updates about my book, which just came out on there, and about my next book that's coming out. And yeah, I would love to talk to anyone about raising money. I am very clear that I'm very good at what I do. I'm very clear. So thank you very, very much for taking the time to help me see something about myself that I hadn't seen. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you for showing up as well. And like I said, allowing everybody to witness you in this way. So thank you. And for everybody else listening, we'll see you on the next one.